My husband mocked my laugh to his friends, gave me a disgusting infection from a woman named Brenda, hid a secret daughter, and told everyone I begged him to take me back. When I finally confronted him, he smirked and said, "You really thought you were irreplaceable?" I didn't say a word. That was 10 months ago. Today, he's jobless, monitored, and crying in court, while Danny tries not to look at him. My marriage is dying, so I let my husband bury himself in it. Honestly, I still think he's 100% to blame for what happened. One time I caught him making fun of my laugh with his friends while on call. When I pulled him aside, he said, "If you can't take a joke, maybe we shouldn't be married then." This soon became his favorite phrase of all time. One night, we found ourselves arguing over whether or not he should help with the dishes when we both come home after working a long shift. "I don't know, Betch, why don't you try and make me happy for once?" His words brought tears to my eyes, and instead of comforting me, he said, "If you can't handle real talk, maybe we shouldn't be married." And after literally a year of zero physical affection or words of affirmation, my two love languages, I couldn't take it anymore. "Baby, I love you, but I don't feel like myself anymore. I need your support." Well, if I wanted to be someone's emotional supporter, I'd get a dog. That's when I said it. The one sentence that changed the course of our marriage forever. Maybe we should open our marriage. Yes, yes, and 1,000 times yes. His face immediately lit up with a joy I hadn't seen in years. You could have sworn he had just been told he won $1 million. By that point, I was so emotionally numb to his BS that his reaction didn't even hurt me. I was just happy that we were still trying to make things work. So the next week, I went to a bar without my wedding ring. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a free cocktail here and some polite small talk there. Boy, was I wrong. Men flocked to me like a moth to a light. I wouldn't consider sleeping with any of them. But still, it was nice to know that I still got it, and that my husband was in fact as stupid as I thought he was. That night, as promised, I updated my husband. I showed him my message app and told him what had happened. "What the, all from tonight?" I just nodded. For a second, I saw a look of jealousy flash in his pupils, but then he realized he had no ground to stand on, so he just said nothing. "What about you, honey? Any lucky ladies?" I fought back the smirk that threatened to fill my face and maintained the most innocent eyes I could muster. He looked down at the ground, and his silence told me all I needed to know. That was the moment our relationship shifted from a dying marriage to an intense competition. Fast forward to a month later, and it was our 4-year anniversary. He asked me out to a jazz bar, so I got dressed up. Pearly necklace, white jumper, a black skirt. Nothing revealing, just classy. Meanwhile, my husband wore a suit that complemented his green eyes. Honestly, he looked great. But as we drove, he ruined everything. "Hey honey, why don't we spice things up tonight? Let's see who can get the most numbers." I felt a numbness fill my body. I was living the marriage every woman hopes to avoid, but I had something that was stronger than my numbness, or my hopeless romantic, and that was my pettiness. So I just nodded and slid my ring into the glove compartment. When we arrived, I sat in an empty-ish area and got ready to play the game. I twirled my hair, giggled a lot, and put on a full display of the damsel in distress thing that boys eat up every single time. Meanwhile, it was clear my husband didn't know what the F he was doing, because he just sat there scrolling through the settings app on his phone, trying to look busy. It was laughable. Needless to say, men came up to me all night. I forgot that my husband was even sitting there, and one of them was handsome. Like blue eyes, intoxicating cologne, neatly shaved, bared, 6'3", handsome. I swear when he stared at my lips, I almost died. "I'm in an open marriage," I blurted out without thinking. "For a pretty woman like you, I wouldn't care if you told me you had 5 baby daddies." Looking back, it wasn't even that good of a line, but it made me blush. Hard. So we went home together, and it was the best lovemaking session I'd ever experienced. He left when my husband came home. I guess what he saw back at the jazz bar made him jealous, because he came home with a lady too, if you can even call her that. She was a toothless, 300-pound spectacle. She was sweating so much that the room instantly filled up with what smelled like sour lemons that had been soaked in spoiled milk. I swear I thought my husband was pranking me, but that's when they walked into our bedroom together. The sounds they made could only be compared to a toadfish being boiled alive. She left soon after, and I could literally hear my husband begin to cry. As soon as I got in, he pulled me onto his lap. Butterflies filled my stomach. It was the feeling I had craved for years, and that's how we ended up having sex. I honestly thought our marriage had finally been rescued, but I was wrong. After just 3 weeks, I noticed my discharge smelling extra fishy. It got so bad that even my husband commented on it. Turns out, the blubberfish he had brought into our home had given me chlamydia. I knew his life deserved to be ruined, but I never expected to be dragged down with him, and for that, I would make him pay. The humiliation burned inside me, fueling a rage I'd never felt before. I scheduled another doctor's appointment to get antibiotics. The doctor asked if my partner was getting treated too. I hadn't even thought about telling my husband yet. I was too angry, my mind consumed with thoughts of revenge. When I got home, I found him playing video games like nothing was wrong. I stood in front of the TV and told him straight up that I had chlamydia. His controller dropped to the floor with a clatter. "What? How? Who gave it to you?" he demanded, immediately assuming I was the one who'd brought it home. His accusatory tone made my blood boil. "The only person I've been with besides you is Jake from the jazz bar," I said, and I got tested right after him. I was clean then. My voice was steady, controlled, despite the fury coursing through me. It took a moment for the realization to hit him. His face went from angry to pale in seconds, the color draining away like water down a drain. "You think from Brenda?" So that was her name. Brenda, the STD carrier. I just stared at him until he connected the dots himself, watching the shame slowly spread across his features. "Our open marriage experiment is over," I announced. "We're done with other people." My tone left no room for argument. He didn't argue. He just nodded and mumbled something about getting treatment. I noticed he couldn't look me in the eyes, his gaze fixed firmly on the floor. That night, I lay awake thinking about everything. How had we gotten here? I used to love this man. Now I was plotting revenge while taking antibiotics for an STD he'd given me. The moonlight filtered through our curtains, casting strange shadows on the wall that seemed to mock my situation. The next morning, I started a journal. I wrote down every instance of his emotional abuse, every cruel comment, every time he'd dismissed my feelings. The pages filled quickly, a testament to how bad things had become. It was therapeutic, but also strategic. I wasn't sure what I was planning yet, but documenting everything felt important, like gathering evidence for a future I couldn't yet see clearly. A week passed. We barely spoke except about practical matters. I was in the kitchen when I overheard him on the phone in the living room. He was talking to a friend, laughing, the sound grating on my nerves. "Yeah, man, she was so desperate for love she practically begged me to take her back," he said. "After the chlamydia thing, I've got her wrapped around my finger. She knows no one else would want her now." I froze, coffee mug halfway to my lips. He wasn't just neglectful. He was actively enjoying my humiliation. Something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't just about saving my marriage anymore. This was about saving myself. That night, I started planning. First step, emotional detachment. I stopped initiating any physical contact. When he reached for me in bed, I claimed I was still recovering from the infection, even though the doctor had cleared me days ago. I built an invisible wall between us, brick by brick. Next, I began separating our finances. I opened a new bank account at a different bank and started directing a portion of my paycheck there. Not enough that he'd notice, but enough to build a safety net. Financial independence would be my first step toward freedom. I also started deep cleaning the apartment, claiming I wanted to disinfect everything after our health scare. While cleaning out his closet, I accidentally found an old phone tucked in a shoebox, hidden beneath a pair of sneakers he rarely wore. Curiosity got the better of me. I charged it up and checked it while he was at work. What I found made me physically ill. Photos and messages with multiple women going back years, long before our open marriage arrangement. In one thread, he mocked my appearance to a woman named Tiffany, saying he only married me because I was the best option at the time. The words stung, but they also hardened my resolve. Instead of confronting him, I took screenshots of everything and sent them to myself. I created a private folder labeled insurance and stored it all there. Then I put the phone back exactly where I found it, making sure everything looked untouched. Over the next couple of weeks, I noticed a change in his behavior. He started trying harder, making dinner occasionally, complimenting my outfits, initiating conversations. I played along, pretending to believe his sudden transformation, but I never let my guard down. His newfound attentiveness felt like too little, too late. One evening, he left his laptop open when he went to take a shower. An email notification popped up from his company's HR department. Apparently, a female coworker had accused him of inappropriate behavior. He'd been suspended pending investigation. The bathroom fan hummed in the background as I quickly read through the details. When he came back, he acted like nothing was wrong, but I could see the stress leaking through. He snapped at small things, the Wi-Fi being slow, me forgetting to buy his favorite cereal, a telemarketer calling during dinner. His hands would shake slightly when he thought I wasn't looking. I realized his power was slipping, both at work and at home. And for the first time in years, I felt something other than numbness or anger. I felt hope. I started pushing back harder. When he complained about dinner being cold, I reminded him he was 40 minutes late. When he made a snide comment about my outfit, I asked him if he was still suspended from work. His eyes widened in shock. "How did you?" "I know a lot of things," I said, cutting him off. "Maybe if you spent less time hiding things and more time being a decent husband, we wouldn't be in this mess." He stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. I heard him punch the wall in the hallway, followed by cursing. I didn't flinch. Instead, I started documenting everything. Dates, times, what was said. I even began recording voice memos of the cruel things he muttered under his breath when he thought I couldn't hear. "Ungrateful bitch," he whispered one morning as I made coffee. Later that day, when he accused me of overreacting to his jokes, I played the recording back to him. His face turned red with anger. "You're recording me now? What the hell is wrong with you?" he shouted, getting in my face. I didn't back down. "I'm just keeping track of reality since you seem to have trouble with it." That's when things really escalated. He started gaslighting me more aggressively, telling me I was imagining things, that I was the one ruining our marriage. He'd accidentally move my keys, then watch me search frantically before finding them in an obvious place. He'd turn the thermostat way down when I was in the shower, then deny touching it when I emerged shivering. But his favorite tactic was accusing me of cheating. He'd check my phone when I wasn't looking, question me about male coworkers, even follow me to the grocery store once. It was exhausting, but also revealing. His paranoia showed me exactly how guilty he was. While all this was happening, I was quietly rebuilding my support system. I reached out to old friends I'd lost touch with during my marriage. My coworker Melissa invited me to lunch, and I actually went instead of making an excuse. I told her some of what was happening at home. "That's not normal. You know that, right?" she said, her brown eyes filled with concern. "I know," I admitted. It was the first time I'd said it out loud. Another coworker overheard us talking in the break room a few days later. They pulled me aside afterward. "My sister went through something similar," they said quietly. "If you ever need help moving out or a place to stay, just let me know." I thanked them, feeling a strange mix of gratitude and shame. Was my situation really that obvious to outsiders? Had I been living in denial for years? The next day, I was doing laundry when I found a crumpled bank statement in my husband's coat pocket. Most of it was normal. Our mortgage payment, some restaurant charges, a couple of online purchases. But one transaction caught my eye. A $500 withdrawal labeled Danny Support. It was from 3 weeks ago. Who the hell was Danny? And why was my husband giving her money? I searched the name on social media, scrolling through dozens of profiles before I found her. Daniela Rodriguez, 26 years old, lived in the next town over. Her profile was mostly private, but her profile picture showed a young woman with a baby that looked eerily like my husband. Same green eyes, same dimple in the left cheek. My stomach dropped. I created a fake profile and sent her a message, claiming I was interested in the room she was apparently renting out. She responded quickly, and we arranged to meet at a coffee shop the next day. I called in sick to work and spent an hour deciding what to wear. I needed to look normal, not like a woman investigating her husband's possible secret family. I settled on jeans and a casual sweater, nothing that would connect me to my husband if she happened to know what his wife looked like. Danny was already at the coffee shop when I arrived, bouncing a baby on her knee. The baby, a girl, couldn't have been more than 6 months old. Up close, the resemblance to my husband was undeniable. Same nose, same chin, same expressive eyebrows. "Hi, are you Jessica?" she asked, using the fake name I'd given her. "Yes, thanks for meeting me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your daughter is beautiful." She beamed with pride. "Thanks. This is Lily. She's usually pretty good with strangers." I bought us both coffee and asked about the room for rent. After a few minutes of small talk, I casually steered the conversation toward her situation. "So it's just you and Lily in the apartment now?" She nodded. "Yeah, I'm hoping to find a roommate to help with rent. Lily's dad helps out, but..." She trailed off. "Is he not in the picture?" I asked, trying to sound sympathetic rather than investigative. "It's complicated," she sighed. "He's technically still married, but he says they're separated. He's been fighting for custody of his daughter. That's why he can't move in with us yet." I nearly choked on my coffee. "Daughter? My husband and I didn't have children. That must be hard," I managed to say. "It is, but Mike says once the divorce is final, we can be a proper family. He comes over a few times a week, usually when his wife is working late." Mike, my husband's name, working late. The nights I had my evening shift at the hospital. "How long have you two been together?" I asked, my heart pounding so hard I was sure she could hear it. "About a year," she said, bouncing Lily when she started to fuss. "We met at a bar when I was out with friends. He told me right away that his marriage was over. They were just sorting out the paperwork. A year. The same time our marriage had started really falling apart. The same time he'd stopped showing me any affection." I made an excuse about needing to check out another apartment and left quickly, my hands shaking as I got into my car. I sat there for a long time, trying to process what I'd learned. My husband wasn't just cheating. He had a whole secret family. He was playing house with this young woman while telling her I was practically out of the picture. That night, I put everything together. The emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the accusations, they were all designed to make me leave him. He wanted me to be the bad guy, to file for divorce so he could play the victim. Meanwhile, he was building his escape hatch with Danny and the baby. Instead of confronting him immediately, I decided to be strategic. I reached out to a lawyer through a domestic rights organization that offered free consultations. The lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Pamela, listened to my story without judgment. "If you file for separation now, while he's suspended from work, and before he establishes any custody arrangement with this other child, you'll be in a much better position," she advised. "You need to protect your assets and any joint property before he can hide or transfer them." I took her advice and started gathering documents, bank statements, property records, tax returns. I made copies of everything and stored them at Melissa's apartment for safekeeping. Then I made an anonymous call to my husband's boss. I didn't lie or exaggerate. I simply forwarded a few screenshots from the secret phone showing him mocking the company and making sexual comments about the female coworker who'd reported him. I figured if he was going to be a jerk, he should at least face the consequences. 2 days later, he came home in a rage. He'd been fired. He threw his bag across the room, narrowly missing a framed photo of us on our wedding day. "This is your fault somehow, isn't it?" he accused, pointing a finger in my face. "How could it possibly be my fault that you sexually harassed a coworker?" I asked calmly. His eyes narrowed. "How did you know that's what it was about?" I shrugged. "Lucky guess. Men like you are pretty predictable." That night, I told him I was leaving. We were sitting at the dinner table eating takeout because neither of us had felt like cooking. I'd been pushing my food around my plate, gathering my courage. "I'm moving out," I said finally. "I've signed a lease on an apartment." He laughed in my face, a harsh sound that echoed in our kitchen. "With what money? You're broke without me. Where are you going to go?" That's when I showed him the lease agreement I'd signed that morning, along with a statement from my new bank account, the one he didn't know about, the one that had enough money to support me for several months if needed. His face darkened. "You've been planning this?" "Yes," I admitted. "Just like you've been planning your exit with Danny and Lily." The color drained from his face. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "I don't know what you're talking about," he finally managed to say. I pulled out my phone and showed him the photos I'd taken at the coffee shop. Danny holding Lily, the baby's face clearly visible with its familiar features. "Funny thing about genetics," I said. "They don't lie." He tried to grab my phone, but I pulled it back quickly. "Don't," I warned. "I have copies of everything. The bank transfers, the text messages, the photos from your hidden phone, everything." "You went through my things?" he sputtered, his face turning red with anger. "Yes, after I found out you gave me an STD, I replied. "Turns out my boundaries only matter when you're not the one crossing them." He stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. For a moment, I thought he might hit me. Instead, he started pacing, running his hands through his hair. "You don't understand," he said. "Danny was a mistake. The baby, I'm not even sure it's mine." "Save it," I cut him off. "I'm not interested in your excuses. I've already spoken to a lawyer. I'm filing for separation tomorrow." "You can't do this to me," he said, his voice dropping to a threatening whisper. "I'll make sure you get nothing." I smiled, feeling strangely calm. "You can try, but considering I have evidence of your infidelity, your secret child, and the STD you gave me, I don't think any judge will be very sympathetic to your case." He lunged toward me then, his face contorted with rage. I stepped back quickly, knocking over my chair. Before he could reach me, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. "That would be Jordan and Melissa," I said. "They're here to help me move my things." His eyes darted to the door, then back to me. "You invited people here? Now?" "I figured I might need witnesses," I replied, moving toward the door. "Considering your temper." Jordan and Melissa were indeed waiting outside, along with Jordan's brother Nolan, a tall guy with broad shoulders who worked as a security guard. My husband took one look at them and backed off, retreating to the bedroom and slamming the door. We worked quickly, loading my pre-packed boxes into their cars. I didn't take much dash, just my clothes, personal items, and a few sentimental things that were undeniably mine. I left all the furniture, all the wedding gifts, all the photos. I didn't want reminders. As I was about to leave, my husband emerged from the bedroom. He looked smaller somehow, less intimidating. "You'll regret this," he said, but the threat sounded hollow. "You'll come crawling back when you realize how good you had it here." I looked around at the house we'd shared, at the man I'd once loved enough to marry. "I doubt that very much," I said, and walked out the door. My new apartment was small but clean, with big windows that let in plenty of light. It was on the 3rd floor of a secure building, with a doorman who checked all visitors. I felt safe there, alone, but safe. The first few weeks were hard. I cried a lot, mourning not just the end of my marriage, but the years I'd wasted with someone who didn't value me. I had nightmares about my husband finding me, about Danny showing up at my door with the baby, about being alone forever. But gradually, things got better. I reconnected with old friends. I focused on my work. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in emotional abuse recovery. She helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't normal or acceptable, and that the shame I felt wasn't mine to carry. "You didn't fail at marriage," she told me during one session. "You succeeded at recognizing an unhealthy situation and getting yourself out. That takes enormous courage." 3 months after I moved out, I received divorce papers from my husband's lawyer. The terms were ridiculous. He wanted the house, the car, even my retirement account. I forwarded everything to Pamela, who responded with a counter. Offer that included a detailed account of his infidelity, the STD, and his secret child. 2 weeks later, he agreed to a much more reasonable settlement. I got to keep my retirement account and half the equity in the house when it sold. He didn't fight me on anything else. Around that time, I started cautiously dating again. Nothing serious, just coffee or dinner with men I met through friends or dating apps. I was upfront about my situation. Separated, divorce in progress, not looking for anything serious. Most guys were understanding, and a few were even impressed by my honesty. One man in particular, a pediatric nurse named Miles who worked at the same hospital as me, became a good friend. We'd get coffee during our breaks and talk about everything and nothing. He never pushed for more, never made me feel pressured. It was refreshing to be around a man who respected boundaries. 6 months after moving out, I was finally feeling like myself again. I'd redecorated my apartment, taken up yoga, even started learning Spanish using an app on my phone. The divorce proceedings were moving forward without drama. I thought the worst was behind me. Then I got a message from Danny. It popped up on my social media one evening as I was unwinding after work. "I need to talk to you about Mike," it read. "He's been telling people you abused him. He's trying to get full custody of Lily and says you're unstable and violent." My heart raced as I read her message. I hadn't told Danny who I really was during our coffee shop meeting. How had she found me? And why was my husband telling people I'd abused him? I agreed to meet her at the same coffee shop the next day. This time she didn't bring Lily. She looked tired, with dark circles under her eyes and her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. "How did you find me?" I asked after we'd gotten our drinks. "Facebook suggested you as a friend," she said. "Your profile picture is the same one that's on the mantle at your house. I've been there a few times when you were working late." The thought of this woman in my home, looking at my things, sitting on my couch, made my skin crawl, but I pushed the feeling aside. "Why did you reach out to me?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Mike's been acting strange lately, controlling. He gets angry over little things, checks my phone, questions where I've been. Last week he yelled at me for buying the wrong brand of diapers. Lily started crying and he just walked out." It sounded painfully familiar. "That's how it started with me too," I said quietly. Her eyes widened. "So it's true? You two are separated?" I nodded. "We're getting divorced, but I never abused him." "That's a lie." "I thought so," she said, looking down at her coffee. "It didn't fit with the other things he said about you. Sometimes he calls you a doormat, says you'll believe anything he tells you." The insult stung, but it wasn't surprising. "Danny, how much do you actually know about Mike and me?" "He said you grew apart, that you were cold and unaffectionate, that you suggested opening the marriage because you wanted to see other people." She paused. "He said you gave him an STD. I couldn't help it." I laughed. A short, bitter laugh that made a couple at the next table glance over at us. "He gave me chlamydia," I said, "from a woman he picked up at a jazz bar during our anniversary. And I only suggested opening our marriage after a year of him emotionally abusing me." Danny's face fell. "He told me Lily is his only child," she said softly, "that you couldn't have children and resented him for it." Another lie. We'd never even tried for children. I'd been on birth control our entire marriage with his full knowledge and agreement. "Danny, I don't know what else he's told you, but I think you should be careful," I said. "The man you're describing sounds exactly like the man I left." She nodded slowly. "I've been having doubts, especially since he lost his job. He's been drinking more, spending less time with Lily. He keeps saying once the divorce is final, things will get better." I took a deep breath. "I have something I need to show you," I said, pulling out my phone. I opened the insurance folder and handed it to her. "These are screenshots from a phone I found hidden in our house. Some of these messages go back to before Lily was born." She scrolled through the images, her face growing paler with each swipe. There were messages to at least 5 different women, all while we were married. In some, he complained about his frigid wife. In others, he made plans to meet up when I was working. In one particularly cruel exchange, he joked about how he planned to trade up once he found someone better. "There's more," I said, showing her the voice memos I'd recorded, the journal entries documenting his behavior, the medical records from my STD treatment. I was gathering evidence for the divorce, but I think you need to see it too. By the time we finished talking, Danny was in tears. "I feel so stupid," she said, wiping her eyes with a napkin. "I believed everything he told me." "Don't," I said firmly. "He's manipulative. That's what people like him do. They make you doubt yourself." She nodded, straightening her shoulders. "What do I do now?" "That's up to you," I said. "But if I were you, I'd document everything, just like I did. And I'd be very careful about custody arrangements. If he's willing to lie about abusing me, he might lie about other things too." We parted with an awkward hug, 2 women connected by the same deceitful man. I felt strangely protective of her and Lily, even though a part of me still resented them for existing, for being the family he'd chosen over me. A week later, Danny posted a selfie on social media. She looked tired but determined, with a caption that simply read, "Some lessons hurt, but they're worth it. Starting over." I sent her a heart emoji in the comments, a small gesture of solidarity from one survivor to another. I never heard from my husband directly again. All communication went through our lawyers. The divorce was finalized 3 months later, clean and straightforward. I kept my last name. It had never felt like his anyway. As for the insurance folder, I kept it for a while, a digital security blanket. But on the 1-year anniversary of moving out, I deleted it. I didn't need it anymore. I had built something better than insurance. I had built a new life. Miles and I eventually started dating officially. He was patient with my trust issues, understanding when I needed space. The first time he stayed over at my apartment, I had a panic attack. Instead of getting angry or offended, he sat with me, talking me through it until I could breathe normally again. "We have time," he said, holding my hand but not crowding me. "There's no rush." Healing wasn't linear. I had good days and bad days. Sometimes I'd catch myself flinching when someone raised their voice, or apologizing for things that weren't my fault. But the good days gradually outnumbered the bad. One evening, about 18 months after leaving my husband, I ran into Danny at the grocery store. Lily was in the shopping cart, babbling happily and playing with a stuffed animal. She looked so much like her father that it still gave me a jolt. "How are you?" I asked, genuinely wanting to know. "Better," Danny said with a small smile. "We moved to a new apartment. I'm taking classes at the community college. Lily's in daycare part-time. And Mike?" I couldn't help asking. Her smile faded slightly. "He sees Lily twice a month. Supervised visits only. The court ordered it after he showed up hammered to a custody hearing." I nodded, not surprised but still sad for Lily. "You're doing great," I said. "Both of you." As I walked away, I realized something important. The anger that had driven me for so long, the need to make my ex-husband pay, to see him suffer, had faded. In its place was something quieter but stronger. The knowledge that I had survived, that I was thriving despite his best efforts to break me. That night, I told Miles about running into Danny and Lily. We were cooking dinner together in my apartment, something that had become a weekly tradition. "Do you ever regret how things turned out?" he asked, carefully chopping vegetables for a stir-fry. I thought about it as I measured rice into the cooker. "I regret staying as long as I did," I said finally. "I regret not recognizing the red flags earlier, but I don't regret leaving, and I don't regret how I left." He nodded, understanding without needing me to explain further. That was one of the things I loved about him. He listened, really listened, without trying to fix everything or make it about himself. "I'm glad you found your way out," he said simply, reaching for my hand across the counter. "And I'm glad you found your way here." I squeezed his hand, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with revenge or competition or proving my worth. It was just happiness, pure and uncomplicated. My ex-husband had dug his own grave in our marriage, and I had let him, but I hadn't joined him in it. Instead, I'd walked away and built something new, something healthy and whole and mine. And that was the best revenge of all. I woke up the next morning feeling lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Miles asking if I wanted to grab coffee before my shift. I smiled and texted back a quick yes. It was nice having someone who actually wanted to spend time with me. When I got to the hospital cafeteria, Miles was already there with 2 cups of coffee. He slid one across the table as I sat down. "You look happy today," he said. "I am," I replied, taking a sip. For the first time in forever, I feel like I'm actually in control of my life. We chatted for a while about normal stuff, a difficult patient he had, a new restaurant that opened downtown, his sister's upcoming wedding. No drama, no walking on eggshells, just easy conversation between 2 people who enjoyed each other's company. As I headed to my department, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Pamela, my lawyer. "Your ex filed a motion claiming you hid assets during the divorce proceedings. Call me ASAP." My good mood evaporated instantly. I ducked into an empty break room and called her. "What's going on?" I asked as soon as she picked up. "He's claiming you have a secret bank account with substantial funds," Pamela explained. "Says you've been hiding money throughout the marriage." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's rich coming from the guy who had a whole secret family." "I know, it's a desperate move," she agreed, "but we need to respond. Can you send me all your financial statements from the past year?" I promised to email everything that evening and hung up, my hands shaking slightly. Just when I thought I was free of him, he found another way to drag me back into his mess. During my lunch break, I got another surprise. A nurse from pediatrics stopped by my station. "There's someone asking for you at reception," she said. "A woman with a baby." My stomach dropped. I headed to the front desk, already knowing who I'd find. Sure enough, Danny was there, bouncing a fussy Lily on her hip. "I'm sorry to show up at your work," she said immediately, but I didn't know where else to go. I led her to the cafeteria, which was mostly empty between lunch rushes. Lily had fallen asleep against her mother's shoulder. "Mike showed up at my apartment last night," Danny said, her voice low. "He was hammered, pounding on the door, yelling that I'd ruined his life by talking to you. My neighbor called security, but by the time they got there, he was gone." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Did you call the police?" She nodded. "They took a report but said they couldn't do much since he didn't actually break in." She shifted Lily to her other shoulder. "I'm scared. He's never been this angry before." I thought for a moment. "Do you have somewhere else you can stay? Friends or family?" "My sister lives about an hour away. I could go there for a few days." "That's a good idea," I said. "And you should consider getting a restraining order." She nodded again, looking exhausted. "There's something else. He mentioned something about proving you hid money from him. Said once he got what was rightfully his, he'd take Lily and disappear." So that's what this was about. He wasn't just being petty with the hidden assets claim. He was trying to get money to run with Lily. The thought made my blood boil. "Danny, listen to me," I said, leaning forward. "He's not going to take Lily anywhere. I'll help you make sure of that." After she left, I called Pamela again and filled her in on what Danny had told me. "This changes things," Pamela said. "If he's threatening to flee with the child, we need to alert the court immediately. And I think we should move forward with those screenshots you've been holding on to." I agreed. That night, I forwarded everything to Pamela. The screenshots, the voice recordings, even photos of the bank statements showing transfers to Danny labeled as support. I'd been hesitant to use them, wanting to move on without more drama. But if he was threatening Danny and Lily, all bets were off. The next few days were tense. I jumped every time my phone rang. I checked my rearview mirror constantly, half expecting to see my ex following me. Miles noticed my anxiety and offered to stay over, but I declined. I needed to handle this on my own. A week later, Pamela called with news. The judge threw out his motion about hidden assets, she said. And there's more. Danny's lawyer submitted your evidence as part of her emergency custody hearing. Your ex showed up late looking disheveled and went on a rant about both of you conspiring against him. What happened? I asked, holding my breath. The judge granted Danny full temporary custody and issued a restraining order against him. He's not allowed within 500 feet of either of you. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, I said, my voice cracking slightly. Don't thank me yet, Pamela warned. Men like your ex don't give up easily. Be careful. She was right. That weekend, I came home from grocery shopping to find my apartment door slightly ajar. I froze, grocery bags hanging from my hands. I was sure I'd locked it when I left. I backed away slowly and called the building security from the hallway. The guard came up immediately and checked the apartment while I waited outside, heart pounding. Nothing seems disturbed, he reported, but your balcony door was unlocked. Could you have left it that way? I shook my head. I never used the balcony. It was tiny and overlooked a busy street. The guard helped me change my locks that day. I also installed a simple security camera facing my front door, connected to an app on my phone. That night, I barely slept, jumping at every noise. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from Danny. I called her back immediately. Someone broke into my car last night, she said, her voice shaking. They didn't take anything, but all my papers were rifled through. The police said it might be random, but we both know it wasn't. I finished for her. Are you still at your sister's? Yes. We're thinking of staying longer than planned. Good idea, I said. And Danny? Document everything. Every strange call, every unexplained incident. It all helps build the case. 2 days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. You think you're so smart. You'll regret crossing me. I showed it to Miles when he came over that evening. His usual easygoing expression hardened. You need to report this, he said firmly. This is harassment. I nodded, already pulling up the non-emergency police number. The officer who took my report was sympathetic but not particularly helpful. Unfortunately, one text isn't enough to prove harassment, she explained. But we'll document it, and if you receive more, definitely call us back. I didn't have to wait long. The next day, I received 3 more texts from different numbers, all with similar threatening tones. I forwarded them all to the police and to Pamela. That night, my security camera app alerted me to movement at my door. I checked the footage with shaking hands. It showed my ex, clearly hammered, trying my doorknob before slumping against the wall opposite my apartment. He sat there for nearly an hour before finally leaving. I called the police immediately and sent them the footage. This time, they took it seriously. He had violated the restraining order, and there was clear evidence. They picked him up at his apartment the next morning. According to Pamela, who heard from Danny's lawyer, he was belligerent with the officers and ended up getting charged with violating the restraining order and resisting arrest. He spent 2 nights in jail before making bail. The conditions of his release included wearing an ankle monitor and mandatory alcohol counseling. It wasn't a permanent solution, but it gave me some breathing room. A month passed without incident. I started to relax a little. Miles and I continued dating, taking things slow but steady. I even agreed to meet his parents when they visited from out of town. They were warm, normal people who clearly adored their son. His mom hugged me when we said goodbye, telling me I was welcome in their home anytime. It was such a stark contrast to my ex's family, who had always treated me with polite indifference at best. I realized I'd never really been part of a family with my ex. I'd just been an accessory to his life, something he could show off or put away as needed. Then one rainy Tuesday, everything changed again. I was leaving work when I spotted a familiar figure in the hospital parking garage. My ex was leaning against my car, arms crossed, watching me approach. My heart rate doubled instantly. I stopped several yards away. You're violating the restraining order, I called out. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, he said, his voice eerily calm. By the time they get here, we'll have finished our conversation. We have nothing to talk about, I replied, already dialing 911 on my phone. I think we do, he said, taking a step toward me. You've ruined my life. I lost my job, my home, my daughter, all because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. The 911 operator answered, and I quickly gave my location, keeping my eyes on my ex the whole time. He didn't seem bothered by the call. I just want you to know, he continued, that whatever happens next is your fault. Remember that. Before I could respond, hospital security appeared at the garage entrance. Someone must have seen him and called them. He noticed them too and backed away from my car. This isn't over, he said, then turned and walked quickly toward the exit on the opposite side of the garage. Security escorted me to my car and waited until I was safely inside with the doors locked. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. The police arrived minutes later, but he was already gone. They took my statement and promised to look for him, but I could tell they didn't consider it a baked priority. After all, he hadn't actually touched me or explicitly threatened me. I called Miles as soon as I got home, my voice breaking as I told him what happened. I'm coming over, he said immediately. Pack a bag. You're staying at my place tonight. I didn't argue. I threw some clothes and toiletries into a duffel bag, grabbed my laptop and chargers, and was ready when Miles arrived 20 minutes later. His apartment was smaller than mine, but felt safer somehow. He made us dinner while I sat at his kitchen counter, still jumpy from the encounter. I'm tired of living like this, I admitted, always looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next crazy thing he'll do. Miles reached across the counter and squeezed my hand. I know, but you're not alone in this anymore. I stayed at his place for 3 days. My ex didn't show up at the hospital again, and the police reported that he was still wearing his ankle monitor, which showed he'd been at a bar when he confronted me, a violation of his bail conditions. He was arrested again, and this time denied bail. The judge was not impressed with his repeated violations, and he was held until his hearing date for the restraining order violation. situation. During those weeks, Danny and I kept in touch regularly. She and Lily were still staying with her sister, but planning to move to a new apartment in a secured building. She'd enrolled in nursing classes at the community college and found a daycare that worked with her schedule. Slowly but surely, she was rebuilding her life. The day of my ex's hearing arrived. I testified about the parking garage incident, my voice steady as I described his behavior. The prosecutor also presented the security camera footage from my apartment and the text messages I'd received. My ex sat at the defense table, glaring at me the entire time. When the judge announced his sentence, 6 months in county jail for the restraining order violations plus another 3 months for violating bail conditions, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. 9 months of safety, 9 months to figure out my next steps. As they led him away, my ex turned to look at me one last time. I expected to see hatred in his eyes, but instead, I saw something that looked almost like confusion, as if he couldn't understand how his actions had led to this moment. For the first time, I felt sorry for him, not because of his sentence, but because he would probably never understand what he'd done wrong. Outside the courthouse, Miles was waiting for me. He'd taken the day off work to be there, even though I told him it wasn't necessary. "How do you feel?" he asked as we walked to his car. I thought about it for a moment. Relieved, tired, ready to move on. He nodded. "Want to get lunch? There's a new Thai place downtown I've been wanting to try." And just like that, we shifted from the drama of the courtroom to normal, everyday life. No grand statements, no dramatic declarations, just lunch plans and the comfortable silence of two people who understood each other. Over the next few months, life settled into a new rhythm. I still had moments of anxiety, especially as my ex's release date approached, but they became less frequent. Miles and I grew closer, eventually deciding to move in together when both our leases ended. Danny got full legal custody of Lily, with my ex granted only supervised visitation once he completed anger management and alcohol treatment programs. She sent me a photo of Lily on her first birthday, sitting in a baked chair with cake all over her face. Despite everything, I couldn't help smiling at the image. My divorce was finally, truly, behind me. The insurance folder stayed deleted. I didn't need it anymore. Not as evidence, not as protection, not even as a reminder. The lessons it contained were already part of me. Trust your instincts, value yourself, and never settle for someone who makes you feel small. 6 months after the hearing, Miles and I were having dinner at our favorite restaurant when he reached across the table and took my hand. "I've been thinking," he said, his voice slightly nervous. "My lease is up next month and so is yours. What would you think about us looking for a place together?" I felt a flutter of anxiety, old fears trying to resurface. But behind that was something stronger. The knowledge that this man was nothing like my ex, that this relationship was built on mutual respect and genuine affection. "I'd like that," I said, squeezing his hand. "But I have one condition." "What's that?" he asked, looking slightly worried. "I get to pick the kitchen appliances," I said with a grin. "I've seen your toaster." He laughed, relief evident on his face. "Deal." As we clinked glasses to seal our agreement, I realized something important. My marriage hadn't just been a failure or a mistake. It had been a necessary detour that led me here. To this moment, to this man, to this version of myself who knew exactly what she wanted and wasn't afraid to claim it. My ex had dug his grave in our marriage, and I had let him bury himself in it. But I hadn't jumped in after him. Instead, I'd walked away and built something new, something real and solid and mine, and I'd never look back.